I mean, I wouldn't really consider it that. I don't know. I think the more you look down, like at history, you're gonna realize how much everything was skewed, and everything wasn't really the way that people say it is. And everyone's gonna try to make themselves seem better as a society and as a culture in some sort of way, and they're gonna make that this is done at this time, and this person discovered this thing, and everyone did this. But like, the more you dwell on it and look back at it, like
for sure. But it's just the fact is that a civilization that existed thousands of years before the telescope already had calendars that marked not only Earth years and knew that the Earth was round and went around the sun, it also marked the years of Venus, the years of the moon, and the Maya even had a galactic calendar that marked a 56,000-year period of which it takes the sun to do a rotation in the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
How the fuck did they know how long it took the sun to do a rotation around the Milky Way galaxy? I'll tell you how they fucking knew. They had a person that lived on Earth that they said came from the stars, and this person was not like the ordinary Maya. Like modern history teachers will try to make you believe that this person was just a regular Mayan who was tall. Well, it turned out that the average Mayan back then was like the same size as like fucking your average person, like fucking John Adams. They were like 5 foot something, This guy was almost 8 foot tall. Almost 8 foot tall. And his people who worshipped him, the Maya, worshipped him like a god and said that, he came from the stars and left back to the stars and promised to return one day, kind of like Jesus. This guy comes from the stars, returns to them, and teaches them about medicine, gets them to build hospitals, schools, and he teaches them all about astrology and teaches them, that Venus has a certain amount of days in it in a Venusian year, lunar years, all the lunar eclipses, all the solar eclipses. The sun goes around the fucking Milky Way galaxy every 56,000 years, and that's why the Mayan calendar actually ends on December 21st, 2012. Everyone's like, oh my god, it's the apocalypse. No, that's the ending marker for a fucking solar galactical alignment.
Yeah. What do you think about all that? You think it's a crock of shit? Mayan calendar?
Yeah, that's what it is. The Mayan calendar ends on December 21st, 2012, because on December 21st, 2012, in 2012, there will be 3 eclipses, a lunar, a Venusian, and then the final eclipse is we will witness something that no human has witnessed in 56,000 years, Max. That's how beautiful it is. This isn't like Halley's Comet every 77 years. We're talking about 56,000 years. The sun, look up at the sun on December 21st, 2012, and it will be in the exact center of the Milky Way galaxy. This happens every 56,000 years and change. Like, that's
weird.
Amazing. And they weren't talking that that's the end of the world. They didn't say that at all. In fact, the only thing that kind of correlates with that date of something crazy happening is on that day, the Mayan god is supposed to return. The world's not supposed to end. The Mayan god is supposed to come back from the stars.
Huh.
Like, that's the day he's supposed to travel back from his planet.
Right.
And on that day, the sun will technically, since it's going to be in the exact center of the universe, or not in the universe, in the exact center of the galaxy, it'll technically be the closest to the Earth it'll ever be in 56,000 years, which means we will have more solar activity than ever. And if a solar flare happened on that day, which is kind of rare, but of course it could happen because it'll be a lot of solar activity, but it'll be closer to the Earth. The most significant thing that the sun could do, I guess it could destroy the Earth, but in reality, what I believe think if something really significant happens, we could have a pole change. Like North and South Pole could change. I mean, that's happened before. We have evidence of that in like geologist studies. Like, so, I mean, sure, that could happen. And if that did happen, everything electrical would stop working, which some prophets say that on that same day, that the lights will go out and won't come back on. Like they say, the world will go dark. And I mean, if the North and South Pole changed and switched, technically our whole electrical system is based on the North and South Pole being where they are. So sure, it would change, and then we'd have to work on it being switched to the exact opposite. But other than that, that's kind of the severity of the situation.
Yeah, that sounds pretty intense.
Well, yeah, but like, I mean, and it could, if a pole change happened, of course it would change like the environment, and we might have another mini ice age. But like, yeah, that they weren't saying that the world was going to end on that day. They were just saying that on that day it marks the final calendar day, because everyone thought that the Mayan calendar was to mark, the end of the world. No, it was, and everyone thought it was just for Earth years. It wasn't just for Earth years. It was for Earth years, Venusian years, lunar years, and the sun year, which a sun year is 56,000 Earth years.
Huh. They didn't. I mean, how do they know that back then that the sun year was 56,000 Earth years?
What's that?
How did the Mayans know back then that a sun year was 56,000 Earth years?
Well, put it this way: the Mayans knew it back then, and we just found this out in the past, 100 years.
So you're saying, even though they didn't have all this technology, they were the way they were born. They were more intelligent beings in some way than we are now.
Yes, and how would they have known that shit without telescopes? Maybe because maybe they weren't lying. Maybe that 8-foot tall guy that we have, written records that say he actually walked amongst these people and taught them and showed them shit. Maybe he actually was from the stars. Maybe an extraterrestrial could have possibly came down. No matter how wild that idea sounds, it's a hell of a lot more of an explanation than the minds just knew. How the fuck did beings without telescopes or any extra history to, any written data to follow up and learn from, how did they know this shit?
Right.
Maybe it supports the idea that even if it wasn't a god, maybe it was just another being from another planet. That's, in that case, of something that an extreme amount of knowledge with the lack of tools and science, that's actually a probable guess.
Do you think
the guy was an extraterrestrial?
Do you think so? After the collapse of the Mayan society, do you think that was the most intelligent society until today's society, or do you think?
No, I didn't say that. But I will.
Like in between the Mayans and the Greeks and whatever kind of period that happened in between, the Renaissance, Baroque, anything that happened in between there, the Golden Ages or whatever you want to call it.
Were way more intelligent than medieval people. Any of those, they were super intelligent beings, dude.
Yeah.
There's no way around that. These people with how our society works scientifically is we collaborate data that we've had from the past and the present, and we learn from it. We take that data and work from it. When Albert Einstein did some work on a blackboard, he died. Some other predecessor picked it up behind him, and he started to work on it himself.